Even after more than 3 years of reviewing restaurants in Paris, there are still a few places I've deliberately avoided. Brasserie Lipp was one of them. Despite its legendary status, Lipp only scores 3.3 out of 5 on TripAdvisor, which is objectively low for a Parisian institution, even if the 4.1 rating on Google paints a slightly more reassuring picture. I'll show you some of those reviews on screen, because they clearly explain why I was hesitant. I was simply afraid of being disappointed, especially after my experience at Le Grand Colbert, where the decor and history couldn't make up for what was, frankly, a very underwhelming plate. So yes, expectations were cautious. But this Monday, I happened to be passing by, it was lunchtime, and I was hungry. No planning, no reservation, no special expectations. So I thought, this is probably the best way to try Lipp. No mythology, no pressure, just a simple brasserie lunch. Before we sit down and look at what's actually on the plate today, let's take a short step back, because Brasserie Lipp is not just another Paris restaurant. It's a place that has been part of Parisian life for well over a century. And to understand why expectations here are so high, you need to know where Lipp comes from. Brasserie Lipp was founded in 1880 by Léonard Lipp, an Alsatian who originally opened a modest café serving beer and regional dishes. At the time, this part of Saint-Germain-des-Prés was far from the intellectual and literary hotspot it would later become. But over the decades, Lipp slowly turned into a meeting place for writers, journalists, politicians, and artists. By the early 20th century, it had already established its reputation as a serious brasserie, traditional food, no nonsense, and an atmosphere that didn't change with fashion. Lipp survived 2 world wars, 3 different republics, and changing dining trends, while keeping the same core identity. Classic Alsatian-inspired dishes, Parisian brasserie staples, and a strong sense of continuity. That continuity is probably Lipp's greatest strength, and also, perhaps, what makes it so difficult to judge today. On Boulevard Saint-Germain, facing the world-famous Café de Flore, you only have to turn around to find yourself right in front of Brasserie Lipp. Even though there were a few people waiting for a table, as I was dining alone, I was quickly shown to a table and handed a menu. The menu is, of course, in French. When I asked for an English version to film, I was given this QR code linking to the English menu online, which I've downloaded here for you. Brasserie Lipp's menu immediately sets the tone. This is not a creative or modern brasserie. It is a deliberately traditional, conservative menu, and that is entirely intentional. Apart from the caviar, you won't find any surprises here. The menu is built almost exclusively around great French brasserie staples, with a strong Alsatian influence, reflecting the restaurant's origins. I think this menu clearly speaks to regular customers who come here knowing exactly what they want. It's not a discover and explore menu, it's a comfort menu. At the same time, because of Lipp's location and fame, it also works as a safe choice for visitors looking for a textbook Parisian brasserie experience without any culinary risks. The same goes for the wine list. It's not extensive, but it focuses on classic appellations, carefully selected from renowned winemakers. A very nice wine list indeed, but as usual when I eat alone, I went for a draft beer. And of course, I asked for butter. With good bread in France, good butter, especially salted butter, is always a must. As a starter, I went for cervelas rémoulade. Cervelas is a traditional Alsatian or Swiss sausage, close to a Frankfurter in style, but with a deeper smoky flavor and a firmer bite thanks to its fat content and natural casing. And the rémoulade sauce is a classic French mayonnaise-based sauce, lightly mustardy and tangy, adding freshness to the richness of the cervelas. It's one of their highlighted starters for a reason. The meat is thick, rich in flavor, and the rémoulade brings balance and seasoning that make the dish work perfectly. I just couldn't help but mop up the remaining sauce with my bread. Then I went for the Tuesday-only daily special, blanquette de veau à l'ancienne. It's a classic French veal stew, where the meat is gently simmered in a white stock, then served with a velouté sauce enriched with cream and egg yolk. In surveys, it consistently ranks among the most beloved meat dishes in France, a true comfort classic of French cuisine. A blanquette de veau is usually served with rice à la créole, cooked in boiling water. For me, blanquette de veau is by far the best of all French stewed meat dishes, well ahead of bœuf bourguignon or pot-au-feu. It's clearly one of my guilty pleasures. It was excellent, and despite a very generous portion, I finished every bite with pure pleasure. Speaking of guilty pleasures, those of you who watch this channel regularly know I have a soft spot for îles flottantes. Well, this one was absolutely ginormous, and quite clearly the best I've had in 2025 so far. Unlike cheaper versions, they don't pour caramel sauce over the soft meringue. Instead, they melt caramel directly on top, which then sets and becomes beautifully crispy. Obviously, as you could see on the menu, Brasserie Lipp is not a cheap brasserie. But you're paying for generous portions of very good quality food, so the 53 euros I paid for a full 3-course meal including a beer feels perfectly acceptable to me. All things considered, I'm rating my experience here 17.3 out of 20. At least in my case, Brasserie Lipp delivered exactly what I expect from a great Parisian brasserie, and did so consistently from start to finish. The location in Saint-Germain is absolutely perfect, the brasserie atmosphere is exactly what you expect from such an institution, and most importantly, all 3 dishes I had were excellent. Sometimes reputations and online ratings don't tell the full story. Quite simply for me, I couldn't really find any downside to this experience.